The scene began with a fierce battle. A powerful hero clashed swords with a terrifying Death Knight. The hero struck with all his might, but the Death Knight blocked the attack and countered. In one clean move, the Death Knight killed Os, the strongest swordsman of the Empire. Os had expected this outcome. He called the Death Knight the true Knight of Hell. Right after the fight, the Death Knight regained his senses. At the same time, a powerful lich appeared and laughed. He said he had finally crushed the cursed empire with his own hands. He believed that revenge felt sweeter when one waited long. After 1,000 years, he had completed his mission and felt joyful. This lich was none other than Archlich Dorbo. The kingdom's emperor shouted at the lich, asking how he could massacre everyone. The emperor said even hell wasn't enough punishment. But the lich ignored his anger and made a BTS hand sign, jokingly. He asked if the emperor was done talking and suggested that it was time to start his coronation. The emperor called it nonsense. He couldn't believe the lich was holding a coronation. But the lich said he had united the whole continent, so being called emperor wasn't too much. Then he praised his demon kings and the Death Knight for their help and told the Death Knight to bring the imperial crown. The Death Knight brought the crown. The lich said the knight had done the greatest job in making this victory happen. He wondered how to reward him. But then he laughed and said serving him was the best reward. Before he could finish talking, the Death Knight suddenly threw the crown into the air and attacked him. Everyone was shocked, but the lich blocked the attack just in time. The crowd got ready to fight. The lich asked why the knight attacked, saying his defenses were up. He was confused. He said he never gave that order. But the Death Knight replied that he was finally moving on his own. The lich was stunned. He said he had erased the knight's mind. But the Death Knight explained that he had always been there, just trapped inside. He had seen everything but couldn't act. The lich admitted the Death Knight was his greatest creation. He allowed him to be angry just for a moment before he would take control again. Before he could do anything, the Death Knight attacked once more. The lich was surprised to see his demon kings destroyed in one blow. He raised his hands and summoned the dead to fight back. But the Death Knight ordered them to stop and surrender. Instantly, all the dead bodies exploded. The lich couldn't believe what he saw. He realized he had created a being as strong as a god. He admitted he also felt angry, and warned that even if his body was destroyed, he would move his soul to another body and take control again. But the Death Knight said that all those years of pain had only given him one thought: how to kill the lich. The Death Knight stood tall. He said he was born to kill the lich and had created a special sword move that could cut even the soul. The lich was scared and wondered if he should dodge. The Death Knight swung his sword. At first, nothing happened. The lich smiled, thinking the move had failed. But before he could finish speaking, his soul was torn from his body. It flew into the sky and disappeared. He had been killed. The Death Knight crushed his skull to make sure it was over. The Emperor watched in shock. The Death Knight fell to his knees. He said everything was finally over. But there was one last thing he had to do. He wanted to say sorry to his family. Even if he could only see them in death, he needed to apologize. Then, he ended his own life by stabbing a sword into his stomach. Now after that he was reincarnated in the past. This time, he didn't want glory. He wanted to protect his family, stop the dark mages, and save everyone he had lost. He would fight for love, for forgiveness, and for a better future. Suddenly, he heard someone calling his real name. A voice said, "Damien." He thought the voice sounded like Louise and opened his eyes. A girl stood there, looking down at him. She asked why he was sleeping there. He felt shocked but happy to see her again. He thought, at least I get to see her one last time before going to hell. He asked why she looked so young. She laughed and said he was being sweet for no reason. Then she teased him and said maybe he just wanted to be on her good side before her father called him again. She smiled and told him to count on her. Then she warned him it might rain soon and told him to hurry inside. She turned to go. Damien looked at the big mansion behind her. He remembered destroying it with his own hands. He started to wonder if this was just a dream, or if the life he remembered was the dream instead. Then he saw a wooden stick on the ground. He picked it up and thought he would find out the truth soon enough. The stick felt real in his hands. He held it tightly. He swung it like a sword and hit a rock. Nothing happened and the stick broke. He thought this was all crazy. But then, the rock suddenly shattered into tiny pieces. He started laughing like a wild man. He sat down on the ground and clenched his fist. A big smile spread across his face. He whispered to himself that he had truly come back. This was real. He had returned to the past. Damien started to remember the past. He saw his father yelling at him. His father shouted that Demian had gone insane. He caused trouble at a bar and got kicked out. His father asked how much more he planned to ruin the family name. His brother also asked why he hated the young master of Lion Bloom March. But Demian didn't answer. In his thoughts, he blamed it on their sister. His sister had cried because of him. He remembered how she got dragged into trouble because of what he did. Demian felt like he was the reason his whole family suffered. Then he remembered his mother. She had cried too, asking why he had borrowed money using their land as a promise to repay. That deal had almost taken away their home. Because of that mistake, the family had ordered him to leave. Before he left, his sister came running to him. She begged him to take some money with him and told him to be happy. He thought about how her life was ruined because of him. He took the money from her hand and ran away. That day, he felt guilt and shame for the first time. He ran crying. Now back in the present, Demian was shaken. He wondered how he had returned to the past. He had wanted to say sorry, but to truly come back like this felt like a miracle. His hands trembled. He thought it was hard to even use that technique again. He had broken the rock earlier using a skill called wave breaking. It made any hit many times stronger. He had learned that move after defeating a knight named the Castle Walled Destroyer. Just then, a voice called out from behind. A young boy came running and shouted. He said Demian's name. Demian looked at him and thought he was a servant of their family. He tried to remember his name. He asked, "Victor?" The boy answered yes and called him master. Victor said Lady Lousy had told him to return, and the head of the family was very angry. Demian asked what he had done this time. Victor looked confused and asked if he really didn't know. Demian had no idea what mistake had happened now. Now in the Haxon Viscount County, his father shouted again. He was furious and raised his sword to strike Demian. But Demian dodged it easily. His mother and sisters tried to stop his father. They begged him to calm down, but his father kept shouting. He said Demian had embarrassed the family again. He yelled for everyone to step away. He said he would handle it himself. Demian realized he had returned to this exact moment in time. His father raised his sword again and shouted that he would teach him a lesson. His mother asked if he was really going to harm his own son. His sister also begged him to think carefully. Demian thought about how long it had been since he had heard his father scold him. He missed this feeling. His father's name was Paul. His mother was Mariilda. His sister was Lousy. As he stood there crying, he realized how much he had missed them all. Paul told Demian he had gone too far. He asked if Demian had anything to say for himself. Demian replied that he had no excuse. His father was surprised. He said Demian had always made excuses, but now he had nothing to say. That shocked him. Demian said he knew he had failed. He admitted he had shamed their family. He said it was his fault and he had no reason to defend himself. His father asked if he thought that was enough. Demian said he would fix everything he had ruined and accept any punishment after that. Everyone in the room was stunned. His father wondered if Demian had hit his head too hard. He could not believe what he was hearing. Later, in the city of Landwork, Demian arrived at a large building. Victor stood beside him and looked nervous. He asked if Demian really wanted to go inside. Victor said people were saying bad things about the place. He worried something dangerous might happen. Demian told him to go back if he was scared. But Victor refused. He said if Demian was going in, then he would not run away. Demian smiled and told him not to worry. He said he would simply say sorry to the owner. Victor hoped everything would turn out okay. As they walked toward the building, Demian thought again about how he had returned. If it was a second chance from the heavens, he could not make the same mistake again. He remembered how he had once ruined his family's future. This time, he would protect it. At the gate, 2 guards were standing. One of them called out to him. He asked why Demian had come back. The other one said they had already warned him not to return. Demian looked at them. They felt familiar, but his memory was foggy. He told them he had come to say sorry to the owner for what he did last time. One guard said he would pass the message. The other guard made a rude comment about Demian being a noble. They said Demian was the rough eldest son of a shitty family. But now he seemed a bit better. Then one of them laughed and said something even worse. He joked that Demian should introduce his pretty sister to him in return for the apology. The other guard laughed even louder. Just then, Demian sighed. He said this was too hard. He reached out and grabbed a dagger from one guard's hand. He said he had thought he could just say sorry and walk away. The guard shouted in surprise, asking if Demian had gone crazy. Demian said maybe he had overestimated himself. The other guard yelled at him again. But in the blink of an eye, his arm was slashed, and he did not even know what had happened. Once he realized it, the guard screamed in pain. Demian looked calm. He said if they really wanted to know, he would show them what the rough eldest son of Haxon Viscounty was truly like. He got into his fighting stance, ready for what would come next. As the guard screamed in pain, people nearby started gathering. One person said it looked like a fight. Another warned not to get involved and told them to keep walking. Victor stood behind the building, quietly watching. He was worried for Demian. The guard kept yelling, asking Demian if he even knew who they were. Demian calmly said he did not care who they were and told them to just finish what they had started. The guard found it funny and said Demian would regret it. Then the guard warned him again. He shouted that no one who messed with them had ever walked away safe. He said they were the Black Snake Gang. Demian finally remembered. Black Snake was a group that had started spreading across Landwork around this time. This bar was one of the places they were guarding. He remembered how, back then, he had complained about the food prices. Instead of fixing the problem, they had beaten him up in front of everyone and thrown him out. Now that he thought about it, he felt like he was the one who should have received the apology. The same guard looked at him and wondered why Demian was smirking. He shouted that he would not go easy on him just because he was a noble. In an instant, the guard rushed at him, swinging his sword. But Demian dodged with a small movement and stuck his foot forward. The guard fell down coughing. Demian said that he could have taken them all out right there, but he would hold back, for the sake of his family. The injured guard shouted for help. Other guards nearby noticed and asked who the stranger was. One of them thought Demian might belong to a different group. The leader of the gang stepped forward and asked if he was with some other organization. Demian said he was not. He explained that he only came to apologize. But now, after remembering everything, he realized he was the one who deserved an apology. He asked the gang leader to take him to the bar's owner. The gang leader said he did not care about any of that. He said if Demian would not speak clearly, they would just beat him up. He told his men to attack. Demian sighed. It was starting to feel like a hassle. In just a blink, he dashed forward, slipping past all of them. Their arms were sliced in an instant. The gang members screamed in pain. They held their arms and backed away. Demian stood in front of the leader, calm and steady. He said he was out of breath just from that and asked the leader if he wanted to continue. The leader shook his head quickly and said sorry, then the man turned around and ran. Demian chased after him. Just then, there was a loud cracking sound. Everyone in the bar looked toward the door. Demian stood there and said he might have gone too far. The leader had fallen, no longer moving. Demian said this was why people should listen when someone is being polite. He let go of the body, and the bar went into chaos. People screamed and started running in all directions. Demian thought that now the crowd had cleared out, it was easier to focus. From the upper floor, a man appeared. He shouted, asking what was going on and where the guards had gone. He was the owner of the bar and also someone's son. Demian looked up at him and said he must be the owner. He explained that the men outside had already been taken care of. The owner was shocked. He realized Demian had defeated the Black Snake members and asked who he was to cause such trouble in his place. Demian calmly introduced himself. He said his name was Demian and that he came from Haxon in Viscounty. He said he was not here to make trouble, only to ask for an apology. The owner asked what he meant. Demian explained that the place charged too much for food. When he had made a small complaint, the staff had beaten him and thrown him out. Because of that, people thought he was just a troublemaker. His family suffered and lost respect. The owner asked if he meant he had lost honor. Then he said something even worse. He said the Haxon family did not have any honor left to lose. He called Demian a foolish noble. He said no one would say sorry for anything and told him to pay for the mess he made. Demian's eyes narrowed. He said he was going to forgive them if they had just apologized. But if this was how they wanted to act, then he would show no mercy. He jumped across the tables, heading for the upper floor. He held a dagger in his hand and said the owner would also have to pay for what he said. But before he reached him, someone stopped him in midair. It was a strong attack, and Demian caught it just in time. He felt the powerful energy from the blow. The owner smiled and said someone named Sir Ted had arrived just in time. Demian was surprised. He said this person was no normal guard. He wondered and said why a knight would be working in a place like this. Demian began to explain what knights were. He said knights walked the path of martial artists their whole life. Based on how strong they were, they received ranks. He said true knights were those who could use aura. They could cut down mountains in one strike and slice castle walls like paper. They were more than just fighters. They were powerful beings. Just then, the owner started laughing. He said that Ted, the one standing there, was an apprentice knight. He added that Ted was close to the leader of Black Snake. The owner looked proud and said Demian was as good as gone now. Demian said he understood now. That explained the little bit of aura he had felt from Ted. Ted, however, was shocked. He wondered how Demian could sense his aura. Even Ted himself had not fully noticed it. Demian said he now knew why someone like Ted worked in a place like this. He said Ted must have been kicked out of the Knights because he was not talented enough to become a real one. The owner looked at Ted and asked how much money it would take to get rid of Demian. Ted said they could talk about that later. First, he wanted to tear that proud mouth apart. He jumped from the upper floor, swinging his sword down toward Demian. But right before it could hit, Demian dodged again. Demian could tell Ted was skilled for an apprentice knight. His moves were big, but his attacks were sharp. Demian kept fighting, but he knew his body was almost at its limit. He thought he needed to work on building up his strength first. Ted shouted at him, telling him to dodge this next move. Demian saw it was a secret move. He told himself that he needed to use a special skill too. Then a memory came back. He remembered someone named Dargo. He wondered who that was again. He remembered a voice saying if all humans were killed, life would not be fun anymore. That voice belonged to a ghost-like assassin he had met when he was still a Death Knight. That assassin once told him to go away if he did not want to die. Demian had not listened. The assassin said he still did not understand and had to be stopped. Demian remembered that the assassin had once used a secret move against him. The assassin said human bodies were mostly made of water. At a certain level, that could be used as a weakness. That assassin used a secret move called the Blade of Death. He showed how even a wooden sword could cut a person. He told Demian he should have left when he had the chance. But back then, Demian had cut that assassin in half. The assassin was shocked and asked how Demian used his secret move. He could not believe it. Now back in the present, Demian used that same technique. He slashed Ted across the chest, leaving a deep wound. Ted collapsed from the pain. Demian stood still and thought that it always ended the same. None of his enemies ever believed what finished them. After becoming a Death Knight, he had gained a rare ability. He could absorb his enemies' powers and skills after defeating them. The bar owner was now terrified of Demian. He quickly apologized. He said he was sorry for disrespecting the great Haxon family. The two guards from earlier were also shaking in fear. The owner gave Demian money as a way to say sorry. He asked if that would be enough to fix what he had done. Demian thought to himself that he only came for an apology, but since money was offered, he might as well take it. He said it was not enough, but he could let it go for now. He called Victor and told him to come and pack everything up. Victor agreed right away and began gathering the money. He thought he would never have believed it if he had not seen it with his own eyes. He wondered when Demian had learned such strong skills. The owner bowed and told them to take care on the way back. Victor looked at the money and said he had never seen so much in his life. But the owner was still angry on the inside. He told himself that he would get back at Demian one day. He planned to talk to the Black Snake boss about it. But just then, he heard Demian's voice again. Demian said the money almost made him forget about the punishment. He had cut the owner's one ear. Then he warned him clearly. He said to go and tell Black Snake Gang's leader that if anyone touched his family again, they would not get away with it. The owner was furious inside. He thought he would not let Demian get away with this. Demian quietly thought to himself that he knew none of this would erase his past mistakes. But in this second life, he promised not to fail his family again. He looked at Victor and said it was time to go home. Victor smiled and agreed. Meanwhile, in the Lion Bloom March, a boy was speaking to his brother. He asked if he had ever heard the phrase that pain always followed love. His brother looked confused and asked why he was bringing up such things. He also teased him and asked if he was getting ready for battle. But the boy said no. He was not heading into a fight. He was going to find love. At the Hackens estate, Demian walked with a light step. He said it had been a long time since he had slept so peacefully. He felt refreshed. Victor, however, looked tired. He said he had not been able to sleep at all because of what happened the day before. He had worried all night. Demian smiled and said everything turned out fine. Sure, things didn't go exactly as planned, but they got a huge reward. He was even happier that rumors had already started to spread. When people will come to know about it, they would be saying that someone messed with the eldest son of Viscount Haxon at a tavern and got destroyed. Demian said this would change how others looked at their family. He added that even the image of the so-called useless eldest son might begin to shift. Victor thought he had never known Demian was this self-aware. Victor said that was all good, but he still worried about Black Snake Gang. He reminded Demian that he had not only fought their members but even beaten their hired apprentice knights. Demian replied that no matter how bold the gang was, they would not dare mess with a noble family. And even if they did, he would stop them. He told Victor not to worry. Victor said okay and added that even from his point of view, Demian's skills were not normal at all. Then he asked when Demian had learned to fight like that. Demian casually said he had just trained from time to time. Just then they heard his father shouting. He called Demian a brat and asked where he had been all day yesterday. He feared Demian had caused trouble again. Demian calmly told him not to worry. He said he had taken care of the situation. He asked Victor to show them. Victor placed a bag full of money down in front of the family. Both the father and mother were shocked to see it. Demian said he had returned to the tavern where he was kicked out and cleared up the misunderstanding. He said the mistake was on their side, and the tavern owner gave him the money as an apology. His father asked if that was really the truth and if he could believe it. Demian answered that of course it was true. His father looked at the money and said it must be true. After all, where else could Demian have gotten that much? Demian told them to ask Victor if they still did not believe him. Victor agreed and said everything Demian said was correct. The family started to believe him. His mother said she was proud of him. Demian smiled. Victor looked at him and thought Demian was quite the smooth liar. The next morning, Demian was out running. He stopped and breathed heavily. Even though he hadn't moved much, he already felt tired. He thought his body was too slow and weak. There was so much he needed to do, but in his current state, it was hard to do anything. Then he remembered the tonic he received from the tavern owner. He had asked what it was, and the owner had explained. The tonic was made by the Alchemy Academy. It helped increase energy and stamina. That group was known for making powerful tonics. Demian thought back and remembered that their tonics were as valuable as gemstones. He considered himself lucky. He drank the tonic and felt its strong effect. He thought that if he wanted to become stronger quickly, he had to start with building stamina. He had to return to the strength he once had in his past life. In a few years, someone terrible would appear in the world. He called it the Undead Dorgo. Before that happened, Demian knew he needed to become strong enough to defeat him. Only then could he protect his family and their happiness. As he kept running, he made up his mind. This time, he would kill Dorgo, the leech who had ruined everything. Far away, inside the Black Snake hideout, their leader looked down at the body of Ted. He called him useless. He said Ted had once been their best man, but now he was a shame. A gang member asked what they should do with him. Another asked if Ted should be treated. The boss said to forget it and dump him. He said Ted was no use anymore, and they could buy new people if needed. Just then, Ted stood up. He looked weak but was still alive. The boss turned around and saw him. He said it was surprising Ted could still stand. He told Ted that maybe if he got treated, they could hire him again. But Ted trembled with anger. He shouted and charged toward the boss. Just as he raised his sword, something dark grabbed his arms and legs. He shouted for help. A deep voice asked the boss of Black Snake if this could be their first contract target. The boss replied yes and said to go ahead. He wanted to see what the man could do. Ted yelled again and begged to be let go. But the man muttered strange words, and dark creatures started appearing around Ted. Ted screamed in fear and pleaded to be spared. But the creatures ignored him. They wrapped around his whole body. Soon, nothing was left of Ted except one shoe. The boss of Black Snake looked at the scene and called it disgusting. The dark mage asked if he was satisfied. The boss said yes, but asked that next time he do it more cleanly. The mage nodded and asked who the next target would be. The boss said that was why he had been called. He explained that someone had harmed their gang. But the person was a noble, so hurting him directly would be tricky. He told the mage to make that person suffer in some way. The more damage he caused, the more he would be paid. He gave the man some money in advance. The dark mage took it and said to leave it to him. At his home, Demian was training hard. He was doing squats with heavy weights tied to a wooden bar on his shoulders. While working out, he thought the energy tonic was working really well. His stamina had grown a lot in just a few days. But he found it strange that nothing had happened for a while. He expected Black Snake to come for him by now. Just then he heard a sound from nearby. He thought to himself that it must be those black snake thugs. He quickly reached into the bushes and pulled someone out. It turned out to be his younger brother, Abel. Abel said Damian had gotten really strong. He said he almost had his neck snapped. Damian quickly apologized and reached out a hand to help. But Abel didn't take it. He said he wasn't there for apologies. Abel explained that their father told him Damian had received an apology from the bar. But he also heard that a fight had broken out and many were injured. He said it didn't sound right. He asked if Damian was lying to the family. Damian firmly said it was true and that he handled everything himself. Abel didn't believe him. He said Damian couldn't even fight, so he must have hired someone to do it. But Damian said again that he had done it himself. Abel got angry and said Damian could fool others, but not him. He told Damian to stop doing things that made their family look bad. He said the rest of the family had worked so hard to clean up after Damian's past mistakes. Damian gently patted Abel's head. He thought how his brother was always honest and worked hard for their family. He told him not to worry. He promised nothing bad would happen anymore. Just then, Victor came running in a panic. He shouted that something bad had happened. Both Damian and Abel were surprised. They rushed toward the hall. Inside, their father was speaking to someone. That person held a sword and sat calmly. He said he had just finished telling the Viscount about what happened at the banquet. He said sorry for showing up without warning. He added that he couldn't do much earlier because his father had found out. Damian saw him and realized it was Erwin from the Lion Bloom family. He thought to himself that he had already messed with this guy in the past. Erwin looked at him and said he hoped Damian remembered what happened. Damian then remembered the night. Erwin had insulted him and also said rude things about his sister. Damian had punched him very hard back, but now Erwin acted innocent. He said he didn't mean anything bad and that he apologized if Damian had misunderstood. Damian thought Erwin was pretending. He clearly remembered that Erwin had insulted both him and his sister. Now he was acting like it never happened. Erwin continued to act like nothing was wrong. He even said that someone like him didn't care much if others got offended. Damian thought he should not have lost his temper back then. After all, Erwin was training to be a knight, and yet Damian had still managed to punch him. Now Damian didn't know what Erwin wanted. Then Erwin said something shocking. He admitted that he had always admired Damian's sister, Lousy. Their father asked him what he meant. Erwin then asked for permission to marry Lousy. The whole family froze in shock. Damian thought to himself that Erwin was doing the same thing he had done in the past life, taking advantage of their family's weak position. Erwin said that if the marriage happened, they could treat it as a small family issue. It would make the banquet fight go away quietly. But Damian's father told him that Lousy was already engaged to someone else. Erwin said that didn't matter. He said their family could choose, either pay for insulting him or accept the marriage. Damian's father began to think. The Lion Bloom family was one of the strongest noble houses in the kingdom. But he could not let them simply take his daughter like this. Just then, Lousy herself entered the room. She said she would accept the offer. Everyone was shocked. Their father asked her what she meant. Their mother begged her to wait and said they would find another way. Abel also asked her why she had to fix Damian's mistake. Damian looked at his sister with a heavy heart. Lousy quietly said she would go with Sir Erwin. Damian thought that because of him, she was once again facing the same fate. Erwin stood up and praised Lousy for being wise. He said he would send a formal proposal soon and would come back to discuss the details. He walked over to Damian and asked if he had anything to say. He even called him brother-in-law with a mocking smile. Damian thought about how many years had passed. In the past, Erwin had ruined his sister's life, and now he was trying to do it again. He muttered something, but Erwin leaned in and said he couldn't hear it. He kept mocking him. And then, suddenly, Damian punched him hard in the chin. He thought to himself that he shouldn't have lost control again, but this time it was for his sister. And for his family.